more on this, we're joined now by Chad Wolf. He is the former acting secretary of the Department of Homeland Security and a visiting fellow from the Heritage Foundation. Chad, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so Biden's plan here, basically offering a fast track to citizenship, no enhanced border security that we can see. It'll also sharply limit arrests and deportations. Is that accurate, and what do you think that's going to do?
Yeah, I think that is accurate. I would say that the bill itself is fundamentally flawed. I don't think it's a serious proposition because, as you indicated, there's little to no enforcement mechanism in the bill or provisions at all. So they can talk about amnesty, they can talk about a lot of different initiatives in the legislation, but what it doesn't do is it doesn't stop or de-incentivize that illegal activity across that border that we see every day that we're currently in a crisis trying to address. Yeah. So until they decide to get serious about that, to include some enforcement provisions, some security provisions, I don't think that the bill is really going anywhere.
Yeah, but there would still be security at the border. Let's say in an imaginary world that this actually passes the way it is. There would still be border security, right?
There would still be border security, but I think you've got to see how this all works together. So if you go back to President Biden's executive orders, right? Yeah. So he stopped construction on the wall. He has instituted a deportation pause. He's limited ICE's ability to remove individuals from the interior of the country. He's done away with MPP, our Remain in Mexico program, as well as our asylum cooperative agreements. Right. So if you put all of that together, along with this bill, which introduces amnesty, which introduces eliminating penalties for those coming across that border illegally, allowing taxpayer-funded attorneys to represent these individuals. It includes a number of what we call incentives or pull factors. Sure. That's going to certainly start another crisis and another set of population that will be back here in 3 to 4 years talking about another amnesty, trying to deal with another set of population that's here.
Absolutely. I mean, and talking about population, everybody always says 11 million. And is that really the number? Do we know what the number is? They say it's 11 million. How do you know it's not 20 million? How do we know how many it is?
Yeah. I don't think that we know. I've seen a number of different statistics. 11 million seems to be sort of the middle of the road. Okay. I don't know that there's a lot of folks that think that it's much less than that, but you're absolutely right. It could be well north of 11 and 15 million. And you really don't know because that's a population that's very hard to track, hard to identify, and hard to put a number on it. So it could be 11, but it could certainly be 15 to 20 million as well. And you won't know that until, again, you put out amnesty out there. And I would just say that we have experience with this before. If you go back, amnesty without border security, without enforcement mechanisms simply doesn't work. And we know that, and I hope we don't repeat that same mistake.
Of course, especially in a society where the left wants to start handing out a lot more stuff funded by the government. I mean, then you really have an incentive to come to this country. After unveiling the details of this bill this morning, Democrats called it a bill that we can all be proud of. Here's New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez.
7 million undocumented people living, working, and raising families in our communities without legal status. These are good and decent people who believe in the promise of America down to their bones. They did not come here for handouts.
It's a big sweeping comment about a large swath of people. What's your response to Bob Menendez?
Well, I would say it's very difficult to know really the reasons why all 11 million or more came here to the U.S. Obviously, being a former acting secretary of DHS, you see folks coming to the U.S. for a variety of different reasons. Some are being persecuted, a very, very small minority. But you have others coming for economic reasons. You have some coming for criminal reasons. Mm-hmm. But again, what they all share in common is they have no legal right to be here because they chose to come here illegally. And I think if we are a country of laws, at the end of the day, we have to enforce those laws. And so by granting folks that have come here illegally amnesty and the ability to become a U.S. citizen, you basically throw those laws out. And I think that's very dangerous because what that's going to do, and I just talked about it, is in, again, 4 to 5 years from now, we'll be back here talking about a new group of folks that need that amnesty because that's certainly what one side is certainly pushing.
Absolutely. Jen Psaki today, White House briefing, essentially admitted in a teleconference that the administration is not prepared for a wave of migrants from Central America right now. Take a listen.
We don't have the systems in place. We don't have the policies in place. We don't have the laws in place or the processing in place at the border to consider a wave of of people fleeing their countries.
Okay, so they say that they can't handle a flood of migrants at the southern border, but Democrats right now are putting out a bill that's basically a welcome mat at the border. Why would you do this if you can't handle a flood of people?
So it's a great question. It's Groundhog Day all over again. So we certainly saw this in 2018 and 2019 and begged Congress at the time to change laws to address some of these loopholes that are allowing these individuals to come across the border. Congress did not do that, so we instituted a number of measures, whether that was MPP, some of the asylum agreements, some of the credible fear screenings that we did, and we got that crisis under control in 2019 and 2020. Fast forward to Inauguration Day, and the Biden administration, through executive orders and others, have created a crisis on the border right now that is entirely self-made. It was under control, but again, by reducing MPP or eliminating MPP, the asylum agreements, and a number of other measures, they are sending a signal to a lot of migrants, a lot of traffickers, smugglers, and others, cartels south of the border, saying now is the time to come across, because we are putting measures in place that are going to make it almost impossible to remove you from the interior of the U.S.
Yeah, it's a land rush. I mean, everybody sees what's happening here. Chad, you know, the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, Congressman Jim Jordan, released a statement today saying this. This blatantly partisan proposal rewards those who broke the law, floods the labor market at a time where millions of Americans are out of work, fails to secure the border, and incentivizes further illegal immigration. What is it, when you say it like that, he puts it so perfectly, it makes perfect sense. And this is something Democrats would have agreed with 15 years ago, by the way, maybe not even that long. What's changed, and what is it they don't see?
Well, it's certainly a good question. I think when you talk about, providing amnesty or providing incentives to have these folks come across the border, that most of them claim asylum. We know the vast majority do not qualify for asylum. But in the interim, I think what's important is almost all of them get work authorizations. And so they are competing for jobs with Americans. And in this time of economic, crisis that we're in, getting Americans back on the job should be the priority. And I think it's very, very concerning. There's also a provision in the legislation that talks about $1 billion a year for the next 4 years. So that's $4 billion that they want to give to Central America to address some of the root causes of migration. And I will just say, again, at a time where Americans are suffering, I think some of these values and some of the priorities are misguided.
Absolutely. Senator Tom Cotton putting a proposal out that would raise the minimum wage gradually, but also make sure that companies do not hire illegal aliens. This is actually pretty interesting. He tweeted out today, Americans have to compete against millions of illegal immigrants who take illegally low wages under the table. Everybody knows this is happening. We can fix this by requiring employers to verify the legal status of every worker so they can't undercut Americans on the black market. You go back 15 years ago, and Joe Biden pushed for the exact same thing, trying to make sure that American companies only hire legal Americans. Would that have any chance, and would that stem the tide here?
Well, it would certainly help to address the issue. I think the ultimate goal here is to make sure that companies and businesses here in the U.S. are not hiring illegal workers, making sure that they are hiring American citizens and those that have work authorization here in the U.S. And so I think that is the key. I think that's the goal, and how we get about that and get to that point, I think is certainly open for debate for Congress. I would also say, though, another part of that is making sure that we have worksite enforcement, making sure that we're holding those companies and those corporations accountable that do hire illegal aliens. And I think what we've seen from the Biden administration is they are severely curtailing ICE's ability to do that over the next several years, and that's also very concerning.
Yeah, it certainly is. Okay. Former DHS Secretary Chad Wolf. Sir, thank you so much for the time.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Emma Reckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see on Newsmax TV. You can watch for free right here on our YouTube live stream and be the first one here each time our experts break down real news. Just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and stay with us on America's fastest growing cable news channel, Newsmax TV.